Rogue Trader is a turn-based role-playing game set in the brutal, war-torn universe of Warhammer 40K. Developed by Owlcat Games, the studio behind the Pathfinder series, the game puts you in the shoes of a new rogue trader who is basically an agent of the Empire that is given a lot of leniency in what they can do in order to help humanity. They can, for example, be more heretical, or they can help Xenos, and it offers a lot of possibilities and choices.
I'm the
Rogue Trader.
and I can do whatever the
Heck.
I want.
Now, I am a fan of a lot of turn-based RPGs, as I have played both Baldur's Gate 3 and Pillars of Eternity, to name a few off the top of my head. So, I thought this game would be up my alley. And after playing for about 30 hours or so right now, I wanted to share some of my thoughts, as I have a fair bit to say about this, both positive and, unfortunately, some negative too. So, on the positive, I felt that this game offers a great perspective to explore the 40K universe, as you get to see more of it than you could in other media like Space Marine 2. You get to see a whole different and more wild side of the galaxy as you encounter various different factions and learn more about them, like the Xenos, for example. The general turn-based combat I also found to be quite fun, as it feels brutal as you would expect from the 40k universe, and you get a variety of different weapons to use, from las guns to chain swords, axes, as well as those heavy bolter guns that are famous in the Warhammer 40k universe by being wielded by the Space Marines. I found it all really just fun to use, as you get to wipe out multiple enemies at once with some of these attacks with the wide area attacks. And overall, it's very fun if you like the combat systems of games like XCOM or Pillars of Eternity 2 when you turn on the turn-based mode. And speaking of Pillars of Eternity 2, this brings me to my next point in the positives for Road Trader. That's the ship turn-based combat, which I found to be a lot of fun. As you get to maneuver your ship, you have to deal with accelerations, speeds, all that, right? As well as firing weapons and certain ranges of the other enemy ships, and you got to deal with them maneuvering around. And it's a lot of fun in my opinion, just like the on foot turn-based combat, but in space. And one last thing I gotta praise about this game is the amount of choices you get in the game in terms of for example, how you handle your companions, as well as how you handle your own alignment as a rogue trader. Right? You can be dogmatic, you can be heretical, you can be iconoclast, which is basically your own version of a good guy sort of. It's focused on saving people's lives and all that, right? And that's just something I gotta praise about this game, because some games are offering less choices for some of your actions, but this game respects a lot of your choices. Okay, now on to the negatives. First, there is a lot of reading in the game, and while I am fine with reading as you had to do a fair amount of that in the Pillars of Eternity games, there is way more in here, and it can feel somewhat exhaustive, especially with how wordy a lot of the sentences are in the paragraph format they are in. And the game does not really prepare you for this, as the intro is fully voiced, so it'll be jarring when you first get to the first non-voiced part of the game. And so, if you are getting this game, you should be aware that there's going to be a lot of reading and not a lot of voice acting, except for a few parts here and there. My second issue is that a lot of the abilities and talents you get in the game from leveling don't really feel as interesting, as it's mainly just ways to buff your attacks and stats. So you are again doing a lot of reading and calculations to determine what stats are good for your character. And I wish you got more interesting and more flashy abilities instead of just buffs. My third negative is that the camera angle sometimes gets in the way, especially in the interior sections of the game, as it's hard to see the characters and environments sometimes, as pipes and other interior walls are often blocking your view. My final negative is the technical state of the game, and keep in mind I'm playing this a year after its release, and I've encountered several bugs that really ruined my experience. After finishing one of the 3 planets in Act 2, I noticed that some of my progress seemed to not be properly registered. Planets that I had already visited became undiscovered, as well as sequences repeating. For example, when I first meet one of my companions, right here you see. Now, I can be very tolerable of bugs, such as the funny ones, for example, where you're walking while sitting on an invisible chair. That's an example of a funny bug that I don't mind. But bugs like these that ruin your progress in the game, I find to be inexcusable, especially a year after release. If I were to grade the game, I'd probably give it a 8 out of 10 score, as while I really like the game, the negatives I've described really brought my enjoyment of the game down a bit. Alright, so those are my thoughts on Rogue Trader. Share your thoughts down below if you played the game already, or ask me any questions about the game if you want. And I think that should be it for now. Talk to you guys later then. Bye.